finally, we have a new open source AI music generator. This is the best one you can use right now, and it's even as good as SUNO. It's called HeartMula, and it works just like SUNO or Udio. You would enter a prompt describing the song, and then enter some lyrics, and it would generate a full song for you. So in this video, I'm going to go over some of my personal demos so you can see how good or bad this is. Plus, I'm going to show you how to install it so you can run it for free and unlimited times offline on your computer. Let's jump right in. Thanks to HubSpot for sponsoring this video. First of all, let's go over why this is so important. You see, in terms of AI music, there's only around 2 companies that are actually decent at generating AI music. One of them is called SUNO and the other is called Udio. I've gone over both of these on my channel before. Now, when these 2 companies first came out, it was pretty much the Wild West. You can do a ton of things with it. You can generate music, download them, and even use it for commercial purposes. However, note that shortly after, both these companies were then facing lawsuits with some big record label companies, specifically Warner Music and Universal Music Group. And these lawsuits claimed that the companies had trained their AI models on copyrighted songs without permission. So in order to settle these lawsuits, a few months ago, SUNO partnered with Warner Music Group, and they basically agreed to work with Warner and build licensed AI music, meaning they now have to get permission and often pay to use artists' music and likenesses in what they generate. There's a lot more licensing restrictions and limitations for SUNO users. And then same thing for Udio. So a few months ago, they also were kind of forced to partner with Universal Music Group, who was suing them. And this resulted in basically downloads being disabled entirely. Users can still listen to the music they made on the platform, but they can't export this music or make their own copies. So anyways, because these 2 companies are now forced to partner with these big music labels, you can expect a lot more usage limitations and licensing requirements compared to before. And because of this restrictive control, SUNO and Udio isn't really what it used to be. And so we're really lacking this open source model, which you can just generate music locally and offline and do whatever you want with it. Now, in the past, I have gone over some open source music generators like A Step and also Yue, but the quality of both of these aren't even close to SUNO level. Open source AI music was just really far behind. However, for this one, HeartMula, get this. If you look at these benchmarks, SUNO version 5, this is the latest version of SUNO, is on the far left, and then this new open weights HeartMula is on the far right. And as you can see, in terms of lyric error rate, the lower the better, this is even better than SUNO version 5. And then for overall song quality and style consistency, audio quality, musicality, structure coherence, it scores really close to SUNO version 5. So finally, we have a SUNO level music generator which you can use offline. So that's super exciting. Now they offer a ton of demos on this page, but they might be cherry picked, so what I'm going to do instead is actually show you my own examples. So here's a fun one. For the prompt, I'm going to write acoustic folk country in the style of Taylor Swift, and then it's going to be catchy melody, and then I'm going to paste some actual Taylor Swift lyrics into this, and let's see what it generates.
We were both young when I first saw you. I close my eyes and the flashback starts. I'm standing there on a balcony in summer air. See the lights, see the party, the ball gown. See you make your way through the crowd and say hello. Little did I know that you were Romeo. You were throwing pebbles and my daddy said stay
And actually, most of it sounded pretty good. First of all, it got the lyrics almost perfect, the vocals are not bad, and the melody actually sounds very good. Note that I generated all of this on my computer offline. Now, I wouldn't say this is like production quality. Everything still sounds a bit muddy. It's kind of lacking in presence, and it's not as dynamic or as expressive as like a professional song. But it's still really good compared to the other open source music models. Alright, now instead of acoustic, next let's try modern rock heavy metal, epic, powerful, and then I'm just following some of their prompting examples. It's best if you also explicitly mention the instruments, so here I also wrote electric guitars, rock band, energetic, male vocals. Now at the start, this song actually sounds quite boring and ballad, but bear with me, once it gets to the pre-chorus and chorus, it actually sounds pretty good. So make sure you listen till the end.
Shadows crawling through my veins, ashes whisper all my pain. Steel and fire in my eyes. I won't kneel, I won't apologize.
And then it goes on and on, but in the interest of time, I'm just gonna play you the first few sections of the song. But as you can hear, it can definitely do like heavy metal or rock. It's quite an epic and powerful song. I don't think this is like production quality. It still sounds a bit muddy. The vocals don't really have enough presence, but it's still really good. Now, the awesome thing about HeartMula is this can do different languages. So here's a K-pop example. For the prompt, I put K-pop, dance, electronic, upbeat.
창문 너머로 스친 neon sign 도시의 숨은 우리의 time 낯선 공기 떨린 손 지금 이 순간을 hold on 심장이 먼저 말해 문소리만 fade away 너와 나 사이 운명처럼 play We go up up 별처럼 fly 멈출 수 없어 this feeling tonight 손을 잡아도 let go 지금이야 let it go
And honestly, I really liked this song. The melody was fantastic. It does sound like K-pop, and it even added some like Vocaloid auto-tune vibe to the vocals. Pretty cool. Next, let's try a Spanish example. So I'm gonna put Latin Chill Urban Cafe. And here's what I got.
Luces rojas en la avenida, tu sombra baila con la mía. Dices quédate un poco más, el tiempo nunca quiere esperar. Se nos quema la piel despacio cuando rozas mi ansiedad. No prometas el mañana, quédate en la verdad. Báilame lento sin razón, que el mundo pare el reloj.
would say the melody for this song isn't as impressive, but it did seem to pronounce the Spanish correctly, and it does sound like a decent chill song that could be played at a cafe. Next, here's a J-pop example. So the prompt is energetic, electronic, synthesizer, drum machine. Again, these are prompts that I copied from their own prompting examples. It's better to explicitly mention the instruments, and then I also put female vocals.
キラキラ夜空に Hey hey 光る小さな声で夢を描く胸の奥で羽ばたくメロディーふわり風に乗って今日も走り出すドキドキ止まらない未来はまだ Break and Buzz 描いてみよう二人だけの世界ラララ輝け星よ心のリズム合わせて手を伸ばせば届きそうああこの瞬間を永遠にラララ光の中で描く
Alright, so I'll pause it there, but this does sound like a nice energetic J-pop song. It's kind of got some YOASOBI vibes to it. And then finally, a user also requested in my last video to try out a Hindi example, so here I have Bollywood upbeat dance indie pop, and here are the lyrics. Let's hear what this sounds like.
चांदनी रातों में तेरी याद आए दिल के कोने में एक आग सी जाए हवा के साथ तेरा नाम गुनगुनाए सपनों के रास्ते हम साथ चले जाए पल दो पल की ये दुनिया बस तू और मैं ही सही रोके ना कोई
Alright, so I'll pause it there. I have no idea if the lyrics are sung correctly, so please do let me know in the comments below. This isn't really like the Bollywood upbeat dance song that I was imagining. It's probably lacking in Bollywood songs in its training data. Next, I also wanted to test how good it is at just generating instrumentals. Now, I tried just setting the lyrics to empty, but I found it to be slightly better if I add in an instrumental tag. And then for my first test, here is Europop trance catchy EDM drum machine rhythmic.
He can get at it. He can
So I have no idea what it's doing there, but it's definitely not what I prompted. It's not good at generating just instrumental music. Here's an even simpler prompt. I just put jazz. Let's hear what this sounds like.
say his song to the dice he holds.
Alright, I'll pause it there, but that's a jazz example. Again, it's just not designed to do well with instrumentals and no vocals. So this is only good if you want to generate like full songs with singing. Anyways, those are some of my demos. Hopefully that gives you a good sense of what it can and cannot do. Next, let me show you step by step how to install it so you can run it for free and unlimited times on your computer. So I'm going to link to this official GitHub repo in the description below, and if you scroll down here, this contains all the instructions on how to install this. They haven't specified the VRAM requirements here, but if I click into the Hugging Face repo, the total size of everything is just under 16 gigabytes. So to be safe, I think you need like 16 gigabytes of VRAM to run this. It's easy to feel like you're falling behind with many AI tools launching every single day. If you're feeling overwhelmed and aren't sure which ones are actually worth your time, there's a massive free resource you need to check out called Master Your Skills in 2026 by HubSpot. It's essentially a master bundle of 6 different guides and toolkits designed to take you from confused to power user. Here are 3 of my favorite parts. you get a database of 200 ways to make money with AI, as well as a guide on 50 high-impact productivity tools. It's not just a list, but it includes real-world workflows, so you can actually automate your scheduling or content creation immediately. The bundle also includes this guide, 40 plus free versus paid AI tools, and this is huge because it helps you build a professional toolkit without overspending. It explains exactly when a free version is enough or when it's worth the upgrade. Plus, you'll get an advanced ChatGPT prompt engineering guide, which is super useful. This helps you get the most out of ChatGPT by prompting it correctly, instantly giving you better results. Plus, you'll get an inside look at the 15 tools which are used to run Mindstream's newsletter, which has over 200,000 readers. There's even a video lesson included with ready-to-use prompts to save you hours of busy work every week. You can grab the entire bundle completely for free using the link in the description below. Big thanks to HubSpot for sponsoring this video and putting this together. Alright, next, let's go over these instructions step by step. Now, in order to run this step, you do need to have Git installed on your computer first. If you don't have Git, here's how to install it. If you already have Git installed, feel free to skip to the next section. All we gotta do is download the latest release for whatever operating system you're using. So I'm using Windows, so I'm just gonna click on download for Windows. I'm running 64-bit, so I'm gonna click on this to download, and it's now downloading this exe file. So once that's completed, all we gotta do is open that exe file and then follow the steps. So I'm gonna click on next. I'm just gonna go with the default install location, which is program files/git. So I'll click next for that. And then I'm just gonna leave this at the default. There's a lot of settings that you need to go through, so I'm just gonna click next for all of these. All right, and then it should go ahead and install all the files. So this might take a few minutes. Perfect, so now we have Git installed. Alright, well, assuming you do have Git installed, the first thing is to choose where you want to download everything. So I'm just going to download it on my desktop. So I'm going to open up my desktop in File Explorer, and then at the top bar here, simply type in CMD to open up the desktop in your command prompt. And then the next step is to simply copy this line and then paste it in here. And this is going to clone all the files and folders that you see here into a folder on my desktop. So if I double click on this, you can see it's the same files and folders as the GitHub repo. All right, the next step is, because right now we are still in desktop, we need to change the directory to this new HeartLib folder. So I'm going to copy this line and then paste it in here. So right now you can see that we are now within this new HeartLib folder. And then for the next line, this means we are going to use pip to install a Python project in our current folder. However, some of you might not have Python installed, and some of you might not have Python 3.10 installed. So what I recommend you do, just to make sure nothing breaks, is to actually install Conda first, and then use that to create a virtual environment with Python 3.10. And that way everything will be housed in this self-contained folder, and this ensures that everything works without breaking anything else. So before we do this step, we do need to install Conda first. If you already have Conda installed, feel free to skip to the next section. Actually, what I'm going to do is install Mini Conda. This is a minimalist version of Anaconda. If you install the full Anaconda, it installs a lot of packages and dependencies that you might not need. This just takes up more room on your computer, and of course the installation time is a bit longer. But with Mini Conda, it's just a bare bones package, and you can always install additional packages and dependencies afterwards. So I'm on this page, and you could download the latest version of Anaconda, which is for Python 3.13, but 3.13 tends to not work very well with the latest AI model. So you should go with like 3.12 or 3.11. So instead, I'm going to click on this link, repo.anaconda.com, and here you will find a list of different installers for different operating systems and Python versions. So for example, you could go with 3.12 or 3.11. So if you want to install 3.12, here is the Windows version. So you can install this, or this one, 3.11 for Windows, also works. All right, after downloading the exe, I'm going to open this up and it's going to launch this installer. So I'm going to click next and then agree, and then let's set this to all users. I'm going to go with the default destination folder, and then I'm going to check this as well, clear the package cache upon completion. This just gives you back some more disk space without affecting functionality. All right, once that's complete, completed, let's click next, and then we are finished. Now, we aren't done yet, so if you open up the command prompt and you type in conda -- version, you're still going to see that Conda is not recognized. This is because we haven't added Anaconda to our path yet. So let's exit out of this, and then to add it to our path, we simply search for this function, edit the system environment variables. We're going to click on this, and then click on environment variables, and then click on the one that says path, and then click edit. And here's where you add in the path of Anaconda. So it depends where you installed Anaconda. For me, I installed it in program data. So it's going to be in program data / mini Conda. And then if I double click on scripts, you can see that Conda is here. So this is the folder we want to paste in. So I'm going to right click on this and then copy as path. And then back in the environment variables window, I'm going to click new and then paste in the path here and then click OK and then OK and then OK again. Now, if you open up command prompt again and type in conda -- version, you should see that we are running 24.5.0. So this shows that we have successfully installed Anaconda. Anyways, assuming you do have Conda or mini Conda installed, actually what we need to do first is use Conda to create a new virtual environment by typing -n, and then let's call this HeartMula, and this is going to use Python equals 3.10, which is recommended over here. So let's press run, and what this is going to do is use Conda to create a virtual environment, which is going to be called HeartMula. So you're going to be prompted to proceed or not. Let's press Y and then enter. And afterwards, you should see this line again with no error message. Now, the next step is we first need to activate and go within our virtual environment before we install anything else. So to do that, simply type in Conda and then activate HeartMula or whatever you named your virtual environment, and then press enter. And you should see your environment name in parentheses at the start of the line, which signifies that you are now within your virtual environment. All right, now afterwards, we can then proceed to run this line. So let me copy this and then paste it in here. So this is going to install all the build dependencies. It's going to install Torch Audio, Torch Vision, etc. And this is going to take a while to download everything. All right, afterwards, you should see that it has successfully installed all these, plus you should see this line again with no error messages. Now here, the next step is we need to download all these models from Hugging Face. And in order to do that, we need to use pip to install an additional package called Hugging Face Hub. So going back to our terminal, we need to type pip install and then Hugging Face _hub like this. So this is going to install this package, which helps us download files from Hugging Face. Now here it says we need to install this in a checkpoint folder. So what I'm going to do is actually exit out of this terminal, and then back in our heartlib folder, let's just right click and then create a new folder and call this CKPT. And then afterwards, again at the top, let's type in CMD to open this up in command prompt. And then afterwards, for these lines, it doesn't seem to be convention for the Windows terminal. So if you try to paste in this line, it's not really going to work. So if you're using Windows, here's how you should type this. It's going to be HF download, and then without quotes, you just simply type this part in here. So it's going to be HeartMula / HeartMula gen, note the capital letters, and then -- local directory, and then this part, but again without quotes. So it's just / and then checkpoints like this. And this should proceed to download this file. If you double click on your checkpoint folder, you can see the files over here. Now we also need to do the same for these two lines. So again, we need to remove the quotations in order to get this to work. So over here, I'm going to type the second line and then press enter. Note that for the second line, it's going to install the actual model, which is like 16 gigabytes in size. It's basically downloading these safe tensors files over here. So it's going to take a while depending on the speed of your internet. All right, after that's done, you should see this line again with no error messages. Now let's also do the same for this last line over here. Again, if you're using Windows, you need to type this in without quotes. So I'm going to write this and then press enter. Now note that this one also takes like 6.64 gigabytes in size. So it's going to take a while. All right, after that's done, that's basically all we need to download. Now let's also double check that our checkpoint folder contains all these files. So I'm going to open up checkpoints, and as you can see here, we do see Heart Codec OSS folder, and then this HeartMula OSS folder, plus we do see genconfig and tokenizer. So everything is correctly installed. Next, we can proceed to generate some songs. So let me exit out of everything and show you how to start this from scratch the next day. So all you need to do is double click into your HeartLib folder, and then at the top here, type in CMD to open this up in command prompt. And then what you need to do is type Conda activates, and then the name of your virtual environment, which is HeartMula. And you should see this line with HeartMula in parentheses, which means you are now within your virtual Conda environment. And now you can start using HeartMula. Now, if you haven't installed something called Triton in your computer, this is an extra step that you need to do. For example, if I paste in this script to run the music generation right now, which I'm going to explain in a second, but right now if I do this, here you'll see that we get this import error, no module named Triton. So what we have to do is actually install Triton first. If you already have Triton installed, feel free to skip to the next section. Now, if like me, you're using Windows, then the best thing to do is to install a pre-built version of Triton. So I'm going to link to this page in the description below. And what I'm going to do is install this Triton 2.1. And since we are using Python 3.10 in our Conda environment, I'm going to click on this one. Now you can download this wheel wherever you want. I'm going to download this in my HeartLib folder. Let's click save. So this is around 300 megabytes in size. All right, afterwards, I'm going to click on the downloaded file and then right click and then click on copy as path. And then back in my terminal within the Conda virtual environment, I'm going to type pip install and then paste in the path in quotations like this. So let's press enter. And then afterwards, it will proceed to install Triton. Now, what you could do instead is just use pip install Triton equals 2.1.0, but at least on Windows, for most users, it takes an eternity for it to actually compile the wheel. So that's why I'm showing you this method instead, where you install a pre-compiled wheel, and this would install Triton way faster. Notice that this only works for Triton version 2.1. I tried installing Triton 3 and it doesn't work. Alright, after that's done, we can start generating some music. So here's how you would start this. First, you would click into your HeartLib folder, and then at the top here, type in CMD to open this folder up in your command prompt. And then we'll need to type in Conda and then activate the name of our virtual environment, which we named HeartMula. And you should see HeartMula in parentheses at the start of the line, which signifies that you're now within your virtual environment. And then finally, you can just copy and paste this line into here. Now you can already press enter and run this, but let's go over what this line actually means. So this is going to use Python to execute this run music generation file, which is located in your examples folder. So if we actually open this up, let me open up the examples folder and then run musicgeneration.py. You can open this in just Notepad, but I'm going to use VS Code. Here you can see that it's basically going to take your lyrics from this lyrics.txt file in your assets folder. Plus it's going to take your tags, or basically your prompt, in this tags.txt folder. And then it's also going to output your generation to this output.mp3 file in your assets folder. So actually, if you go to your assets folder, you can see a lyrics file and a tags file over here. Let's open both of these up. For the tags, this is where you can specify what you want the song to sound like. So by default, this is just piano and happy. And then for the lyrics file, here is of course where you would enter your lyrics. Note that you can structure the lyrics like this, where you can have tags like intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, outro, etc. So here's just their default lyrics. I'm going to leave it as is. But note that here you can also add some additional parameters to fine-tune your generation. So for example, let me just move the window down here. So you can also add this max audio length ms parameter. By default, this is set to 240 seconds, or basically 4 minutes. So the maximum duration of your generation by default would be 4 minutes, but you can set this to something else. For example, if you want to set it to shorter, let's say 10 seconds, then before you press enter here, you can just set this extra parameter -- max audio length ms and set that equal to something like 10 seconds, which would be 10,000 milliseconds. So that's how you would set the maximum length of this. And then we also have another parameter here called top K. This basically controls randomness by sampling from the top K most likely options at each step. So if you want to like increase or decrease the randomness, you can kind of play around with this value. And to do that, you can simply type in -- top K and then set this to something like 45, for example. You can see the default value is 50. And then here's another parameter you can set. You can also set temperature, which also adjusts the creativity or randomness of the generation. So a higher temperature means more variation, whereas a lower temperature means less variation or creativity. The default value is 1, but again, you can set this manually by typing -- temperature and setting that equal to something like 0.8. And then next, we also have CFG scale. So if you're familiar with like image or video generation, then you should already know this term. CFG is basically how literally the model should follow your lyrics and your prompt instructions. By default, it's set to 1.5. If you want it to follow your prompt and lyrics more literally, you can set this to a higher value and vice versa. So for example, let's say you want to generate some upbeat dance music, but it's not really generating that style. It's still pretty slow and mellow. Well, you can try increasing the CFG by typing --CFG_scale and setting that equal to 2 or something like that. So those are all the additional parameters that you can specify. But for me, I'm just going to get rid of all of these and show you the default settings. And let's press enter and wait for this to generate. All right, now, at least for me, this is quite slow. So it takes around like 10 to 30 minutes depending on the song duration, but afterwards you should see your generation saved to this output.mp3 file in your assets folder. So if we open this folder up, you can see our generation over here. Let's play the first few sections of this.
The sun creeps in across the floor. I hear the traffic outside the door. The coffee pot begins to hiss. It is another morning just like this. The world keeps spinning round and round. Feet are planted on the ground. I find my rhythm.
Note that if you generate another song, it's going to overwrite this existing output.mp3. So if you really want to save this song, definitely copy it somewhere else or rename it to something else. Otherwise, it'll be overwritten. All right, so that sums up how to install and use HeartMula on your computer for unlimited times. Now, one final thing I want you to note is that they've actually done a license update as of today. And here they say that everything in this repo, including the model weights, are Apache 2, which is great. This has very minimal restrictions, and this is definitely open source, so you can even like generate songs and use this for commercial purposes. God bless this team for making this music generator and kind of saving AI music from being, consumed by restrictions and copyright issues from these big label companies. Anyways, let me know what you think of this if you've had a chance to try it out. What were some impressive things you got it to do? And like before, if you run into any issues during the installation, welcome to paste the exact error message in the comments below, and I'll try to help you troubleshoot as much as possible. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.